just like right before, we talked a little bit at the beginning of like what the intention and more so what how we're approaching this. So, for you guys listening, Maggie here is a friend and also a previous client of mine when it came to one-on-one training and nutrition. We worked together for about, I think, 4 or 5 months, something
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. Can't remember the exact amount, like the duration time, but we worked together for a little while there. And I just wanted to bring her on to just share her experiences and just more so approach this as if, like, from a big sister standpoint, and like of us sitting down in a coffee shop, just like asking, like, if I was a friend, I was somebody, and excuse me, and me just asking her, like, hey, why did you even felt like you needed to reach out to a coach? What was the process like? What was the aha moments for you and things like that? Like things that she would want somebody else in her shoe 4 months before our like first day together, what she would want them to just know, like a big quick spark note version. So I know that's a big thing right there. So I'm gonna kind of pinpoint that
Yeah.
down to just Maggie, take us back to that first day, that moment where I believe I reached out to you or you reached out to me. I can't remember one, but
Yeah.
just to the beginning of our journey. Take us back there.
Yeah. I mean, well, first, our journey together as friendship started in college. I mean, I think I still have some time hops pop up of you and me, and we're just little babies running around hyper, RIP. I think they call it the Wellness Center now. Always hyper forever in our hearts. But I mean, we did the CrossFit. We were super into fitness together. And that was my life. College into, the first couple of years out of college, I was very into fitness, but I was also very restrictive. I didn't go outside of, a protein, a vegetable, a rice. I mean, it's gotten so bad to the point where I don't really enjoy chicken. You and I had that conversation when we started working together. And then I think I just got so restrictive at some point. I kind of like lost my love for fitness. And I remember telling you that when I first reached out, because I think I reached out to you. I was desperate. I knew you were starting your master's. You were kind of doing all of this learning. And I was like, it's time to reach out to someone that's still working on this area in their life every day, trying to broaden their education. So that way I can broaden mine a little bit on mindset and kind of just like, have someone hold my hand a little bit to pull me out of this dark and show me kind of, how to get back on my feet. Is kind of how that desperation started. When I reached out, I was like, super inflamed. I was doing aggressive HIIT training like 6 days a week, no recovery. I thought recovery was like going to bed earlier. My sleep was bad. I was waking up with asthma attacks. It felt like almost like just panic attacks. So I knew my stress wasn't managed well. It was just like I was lost. And I was like, I had been in the fitness coach season of my life as well. So it's like, how can I sit here and be so lost in my own fitness when I'm supposed to be preaching to others, kind of, every day you wake up and do something for yourself, whether that's working out or grabbing an apple instead of a donut in the morning. I wasn't doing that myself. So I stepped away from the coaching side. I think for 2 years I took a hiatus and I was like, I don't want to work out. I want to eat what I want to eat and I'm just going to do whatever. And that led me to kind of where I was right when I met you. Very depressed, very skittish on what I wanted to do with fitness. And I had found a great community in Colorado and a great gym. But I was abusing it and it became a negative thing for me. So, so I kind of reached out at that point because I was just so lost. And I was like, Calvin, I know you're doing this one-on-one coaching. And I think, coming from the big sister standpoint, for anyone that's kind of struggling with fitness and they're in that moment where they're like, I don't know what to do, or I used to know what to do, and for some reason I'm lost, I think that's the perfect time to reach out to someone that does have the resources, that is continuously working on that area of their life. And, I just knew I could gain more from you. So it was also, taking my ego and putting it aside, knowing that we both graduated from the same college with the same degree, but like you kept pushing forward. And I was always like, well, I have my exercise science degree. I know what I'm doing. I should be able to. But it was like, at some point, too, you have to like put your ego away. Because clearly what I was doing wasn't working. So I was ready to kind of just let someone lead the way. to start with coaching. So that's kind of when I reached out to you. And right away, for those of you that want to work with Calvin, he does not make you feel stupid. He does not put you down. He does not doubt you when you are like doubting yourself. If you say something that may not really be stupid, but that you know you could be reworded, Calvin kind of does that in a gracious way where he's like, okay, clearly, I mean, I was a big bully to myself when we first met. I was very down on myself. I didn't want to record myself because I cared so much about what I looked like, what other people thought. And Calvin kind of helped me change that mindset with grace, change that mindset with kindness, and rerouting. And then he gives you tools to focus on without overwhelming you as well. Because there's some coaches that are like, all right, we're going to do chicken rice and, peas every day. And then you're not going to be able to do this kind of workout anymore because this is what I have you on. And Calvin didn't do that. Calvin lets you tell your story. Calvin lets you open up to where you're at in life. And then he kind of moves the pieces around for that. So I thought that was really cool right away from the bat. And also just jumping on those Zoom calls, that was a big thing for me. I just, like you said, I live alone. At that time, I felt really lost, and I felt like Calvin was definitely that friend I needed at that time to kind of be like, all right, Mags, like, you're in a shitty spot. We can all agree on that, but, like, here's my shoulder, here's my hand, let's take it on together, and I'm going to kind of show you some tools to use. And he didn't take over the journey, but he definitely helped me, like, lead into the way I wanted to go. So I definitely recommend to anyone that's looking for a coach that feels lost, that Calvin would be the one to kind of bring you out of the darkness and kind of step into your fitness journey.
I can only imagine. And before I move forward, thank you for that really kind message right there.
Yeah.
Man, I think someone's cutting onions over there, Casey.
Yeah.
um, uh, just like, of course, we do have like a deeper history together from our friendship before our like coach-client relationship. And even when you reached out to me, I like us going to school together. I already know like us having that level of school together already. I know like your background and like what you know like from like my perspective, and just the fact that you reached out to me, I was really like I was like taken back because I was like I could only imagine how much of a pill that was to swallow or how much like internal like conversations you had to do to take that leap, because already just reaching out to a coach, like being like first you being willing and vulnerable with yourself to like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I am at my capacity, I'm at my limit, I want to be more than this and I demand to be more, but I just don't like i'm I'm spinning my wheels here.
Yeah.
And then you just taking that leap is that's a that's like a really big strength right there. And I just want to like commend you for that. That is really
Thanks.
really dope that you were able to just have that conversation, have that willingness to be vulnerable and give yourself permission to be like, hey, it's okay to reach out
Yeah.
for help. And I think that is really cool. um was that like a really a decision that you were um, kind of pondering for a while before you reached out, or was it like an automatic thing?
I would say a little bit of both. I mean, I was working out. I work out at Traverse Fitness out in Colorado. I'm going to give them a little shout out here. So if you ever come out to Colorado, hit us up. We'd love to get you in for a free workout. But I just noticed that my body was shutting down on me. Like I could not finish runs. I could not do some lifting. That was, something I thought, 20 to 25 pounds shouldn't have been heavy. And I could just tell my body was giving up on me and I wasn't taking care of it. And so that's when I started being like, okay, I'm not doing something right. And then I don't even remember the moment. I think it was maybe a couple days right before I shot off that text to you, where something just clicked in my head, and I was like, I think I was looking in the mirror, and I was like, we can't keep doing this. I was like, I looked pregnant. That's how bad my stomach had gotten inflamed, and it wasn't because I was going over the top with bad eating. I was just so abusive to my body and underfueling it. I think maybe when we started, I was eating like 900 calories. Maybe we talked about the 60 grams of protein. Like it was
Yeah.
abuse. Like, I will straight up say that. And I was like, I can't keep doing this to myself because this is not obviously leading me to where I want to be, which is just being able to put on, we talked about this, what was my goal, which Calvin does great about. He says, what do you want from this one-on-one coaching? What does that look like? And I had to take a step back. And at first, everyone wants to go, I want the slim waist with the fat ass, like all of that. But like, end of the day, I just wanted to feel comfortable, and I wanted my confidence back, and I wanted my spark back. And I knew, not for everyone, I don't think fitness goes hand in hand with the spark, but for me it was. And when I feel good inside and I feel like I look good on the outside, everything kind of comes together, and I'm giving the universe fully who I am. I'm not doubting myself. I'm not, picking out pieces of other people around me thinking, well, she's better than me. Well, he's better than me because she has a six pack or he has, it was one of those things that I had to take a step back, and I was like, I can have my spark back, but I just don't know where I lost it, which I think we did a really good job coming together and making a game plan, because I think I was just trying different things, super aggressive workouts, minimal eating, lack of sleep. But you know what? It doesn't matter because I signed up for a 5 a.m. workout, so I got to be there. So it's just like those things I all had to just like put aside. And I think at some point, it was probably after a 5 a.m. workout where I was just so miserable through the whole day. And I was like, I can't keep doing life like this. So that's when I reached out to you. And I was like, help, pretty much SOS. I'm lost. So,
When
yeah.
was it that after you took that leap of faith and sent that text, and I'm sure like at the pit of your stomach, you're like, this just got more real until like since we started working that you're like, this was the decision, this was the right decision.
Yeah.
And I feel that flicker of that flame of that spark coming back.
Yeah.
What was that moment for you?
I know exactly when that moment was actually. It was when I was going to Lollapalooza and I was on the phone with you, and I still made the time driving to Chicago with my friend. I think we had a 16-hour drive that day, and we still
I remember
committed
that.
to making our phone calls. Yeah. Um, I committed to making that phone call, and I remember 2 weeks before leading up to that, because I think by that time we had been working together almost a month at that point. And 2 weeks before, I was very in routine. I was doing what you were telling me to with my protein goals. And I think at that time, that was all we were focusing on was my protein goals and getting 3 workouts in. Like, there was nothing more that we were focused on at that point. And I had been so consistent. And I remember, going to Chicago, not feeling super inflamed, had a little bit more extra energy. And I feel like that's when it started to click. And I was like, this is how you should be enjoying life. And I also felt like I was prioritizing it again. I mean, I was still making time during a vacay to kind of check in with you, see where I was at. And that's kind of when it started to click. I was like, you can have both the best worlds. You can have, a lot of fun and find your balance somewhere here. I remember that specifically. That phone call made a big difference to me because it also flipped my brain for my trip. Like, enjoy it, but let's remember we have goals too when we get back. So that was huge for me.
That's awesome. And I too remember that phone call. I don't know why I remember it, but like it's crazy how moments like on my end, I didn't think that was at that time through my perspective. Again, it's not always your perception, but like from my side, I didn't think that was going to be one of those pivotal conversations
Right,
because I was like, hey, we're having a phone call, just a quick check in. My friend's traveling. It's just a quick accountability call, just
right.
touching base really quick for like 5, 10 minutes when she's like moving from one point to another. And I was like, okay, yeah, we'll just talk. We'd both do our thing going. And the fact that you here now telling me this several months later, that was a really impactful moment to you is just like, so crazy, and it really just like comes back to us like just for us normally when we're talking to people is that you never know how impactful your words are to somebody
Mm-hmm.
because your perspective is not their perception,
Right.
and anything that you say at any time you have no idea of how much of a impact that may lead in somebody else's life. And so that is really cool that you were able to like you had an anchor point there and you plucked that out and you're like, here it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I specifically remember it was a great conversation. Definitely was a, turn the car around, here we freaking go, kind of like the fire under me. And even my friend Carly at the time that was driving with me, because we were on speaker, at the point, and she was just like, I want to sign up with him. Like, that was a cool conversation to hear. Like, she was like, that was so motivating. And like, she's like, no wonder you've been a little bit more strict at the office. Like, she sees it every day. She sees what I eat and what I'm snacking on and all of that. So it's just like, she's kind of got to see firsthand too that change in me. And we were going to Lala together, and I hung up, and she was just like, I want to do this. She's like, that was so motivating. She's like, I'm like ready to go. And so it definitely, I think it flipped a switch for sure, that I was ready to get serious about this.
That's awesome. And have you felt like that flame, that spark is still kindling up until
Hell
now?
yeah. Hell yeah, brother. No, I recently, I think I did a 3 week away from Colorado. I went back home for Christmas time, and during that time, my sister had gifted me this really great goal setting journal, and intentions, and it just sparked something in my head too. The first page you open, it says, "How are you going to take care of yourself this year so you can reach these goals that you have set forward for yourself?" And I was like, I've never thought of it that way. I was like, you usually set the goals and then you're either like, fail, I suck, I didn't do it, or you're like, okay, I'm kicking butt, it's February, I'm still going. And I don't know, it was just sitting down with that journal and writing out what I wanted. I had 4 goals. They're not huge, they're not small, but they're big. You know, some of them are big for me, some of them are smaller. And I just wrote them down, and I was like, this is exactly what I'm going to do. And I feel like focusing more on self care and an awareness of, I guess, what I'm putting in my body, what I'm putting in my ears, and that I'm putting out into the universe from my mouth is so much more important. Um, I shouldn't say so much more important, but it's in line with what you're doing. It's in line with what you put on your plate and what you're looking at. It's in line with your workouts and your mentality on them and how you approach them. And I've never taken a step back and looked at that. And yeah, I mean, I would say that the whole December and this month too, I've just been consistent as fuck. I've been so proud of myself because I have been so consistent. I've even had people telling me, like, you know, you look great, your energy's back. Like, I can tell there's just something behind me again that I have been missing. I don't know if it's the confidence. It's the eye contact that I can hold again with people without having to like look at the ground all the time. Because I just, you know, I for some reason in my mind, past Maggie put her body weight to her, you know, self worth, and at some point that started to go away, and now I realize, like, you know, I'm so much more than that, and it's coming full circle. I'm not there 100%, but I'm definitely on the right track. The podcast that I'm listening to is lifting me up. The morning routines I have now, the determination to be in bed by 10, reading a book, putting the phone down instead. All those things that you and I started working on and making habits out of, I just kept carrying them over. I mean, I'm not perfect. There's some days, yeah, I'm still strolling on my phone and it's 10 and I'm like, oh crap, okay, I need to put this down and, you know, maybe do some reflection to calm the brain down. But same with food. You know, sometimes you just want the pizza and you're like, I'm just going to go get it. You know what? It's just going to be a nice little treat, but I don't have to eat the whole pizza. And just stuff like that, like little wins, even when you feel like you're not winning on that case because you're like, oh, I didn't stick to the diet. But it's just like, you know, we are humans and we still deserve to enjoy life even while we're on a journey. So yeah, I'm still running with that momentum, and I feel good with it. So
I love that. I love that. And I love that,
yeah,
like, since we were not, of course, we still communicate as friends and stuff like that. And,
yeah,
but even like essence from our coaching relationship is still lingering with you. And I love the fact that you are very intentional with the inputs that you're allowing in, that you're like, now you are now curating what is coming in, so then
yeah,
you can refract whatever does come out of you in a
yeah,
manner that is more in alignment with who you want to be, and that you're feeling good about it, and
yeah,
other people are seeing the glow, the irradiation that's coming off you, that's just illuminating. And I think that's awesome. And I love
yeah,
seeing that, like the energy from you too. And just the part that stood out to me the most, the way that you said it is, you're now having more conversations where you look at people in the eye instead of looking down.
yeah,
That is huge. That is so huge. And like, you can see that when it comes to like animals, from like a alpha to submissive mode and stuff like that too.
yeah.
But just in people, and just the fact that you just like made that comment makes me very proud of you, and I'm proud to be your friend. and
Thanks.
also coach that you have that realization and now you are owning it, and I think that is awesome. I think that's super dope. I think that's super dope. And yeah, dude, just keep riding this wave. I love it so much, and I'm really happy to have played a small part in just helping you with that intersection where you were kind of losing the flicker of your flame, but now it's reignited.
Yeah.
Um, so now, just to really, I would say to round this out is that if you had like a friend that was kind of in the same boat as you and things like that, um, what would you kind of want them to like look out for when they're gonna go look for a coach? Like just quick, quick
Yeah.
flags, quick things that you want to know, want them to
Yeah,
know.
definitely. I mean, first things first, are they being, you know, restrictive was a big thing for me. You and I talked about past coaching that I had. I was on a very strict bodybuilding diet. I was eating like cream of rice, which I hate, and like he just put the diet together, and I was stuck to only specific foods at that time. Some people it works. Some if you need that kind of plan, I think Calvin can provide that. But if you need a little bit more of, I think when you and I started working together, the goal of let's just get 120 grams of protein, or whatever that number looks like at the time, to just reach towards. That's just so much more attainable for me. So I think, figure out, if you want the really restrictive kind of coaching, or if you're kind of like, this is just a day to day life that I'm trying to live and I'm trying to make it healthy. Or if you're going for more of the show side, for sure, I think just make sure you're discussing that with your coach. But when you're looking for coaches, if they're like, this is the one way to do it, and this is the only way to do it, I would stray away from them. I think I would work with someone, just like Calvin, that's like, hey, instead of like restricting you and giving you a meal plan off the bat, let's just focus on one goal: protein, grams. This is what you need. And then you just take off running. You just fill your day with the kind of protein to hit that number. And I think that's more attainable. So I think coming into that, that's the first thing I would look at. How restrictive or how lenient do you want your coach to be? Secondly, like, how do they make you feel? Like I said, Calvin has never put me down. Calvin has never made me feel stupid. And again, it's taking that pill and like knowing that we both went to the same school. He took all of that aside and our friendship and was able to put like a coach hat on and talk to me as a person that was struggling, but also talk to me as a person when I was winning. He celebrated both sides and he acknowledged both sides. And just make sure you have a coach that's giving you a tool. You could be excited about a win and they'll congratulate you and maybe they'll give you something else to focus on. Like Calvin used to give me, he's like, this is great. So now let's try to see if we can, up it. So like with my steps, I'm notorious for not getting those in. Even to this day, that's something I'm working on. I think I was getting like maybe 5,000, which isn't that great to brag about, but I did a whole week of it and Calvin was the first one to stand up and be like, you got 5,000 every single day. So let's just boop it up a little bit more to 8. So I think even in your wins and your failures, how is that coach making you feel? And what tools are they giving you when you're kind of coming out of that space for the next week to look forward to? If they're just saying, okay, good job, and they're just maintaining, that's not how you grow. But if they're also putting it down, well, I told you to get this and you didn't, so now we're stuck here. I think it depends. So I would definitely reflect on how does that coach make you feel? And then thirdly, look into, where you're at in your own life and be vulnerable. Find a coach that you can be vulnerable with, because the second you can't be vulnerable with the coach and be truthful, that's when you start lying and you start throwing extra carbs in, or you're throwing the sweets in at night. You're not telling them about it because you're scared of their reaction because you can't be vulnerable. There were some things that Calvin and I talked about on our phone calls that sometimes weren't even fitness, and I could be vulnerable with him. And I was like, look, this is why I didn't reach my goals this week, and it had nothing to do with fitness. Or there was like a weird thought I had on putting myself down and why I was in that space mentally. Calvin never, made me feel uncomfortable for sharing uncomfortable parts of my life, if that makes sense. So find a coach that you can be vulnerable with and be completely honest with. Otherwise, you're just doing like a whole trickery thing and you're just kind of tricking yourself into thinking you're on this great path and your coach thinks you're doing great. And really, we have all this side stuff going on behind us. So I think that's the biggest things I would look for, It's all about your comfortability, your vulnerability, and being able to just be honest with that person 100%. That's kind of the advice I give someone that's looking, and I think Calvin checks all those boxes. He's a great coach. Anyone would be lucky to work with him. So he'll
Thank
get
you
you where
so
you need
much.
to. Yeah.
Thank you. And those are definitely all like, and for whoever is watching this in the future or listening, again, if I don't be that person for you, definitely take all the things that you just heard from Maggie and just from her experiences and things that she would just recommend to you as a big sister to look out for red flags, because this is like in any profession, there's good eggs, bad eggs. And these are just some things that I just want people to be mindful of when they're looking for a coach. Just because someone has some soup letters after their name, or are they just have a really aesthetic looking physique, doesn't mean it's always the best person for you. So definitely just ask more questions and just have these type of thoughts in your mind too when you're having that initial conversation. Um, and so then they can just help you cut through the noise. So, Maggie, my friend, thank you so much, and thank you, and thank you guys for listening. And um, we're gonna round this out. Subscribe, comment, like. If you want to work with me, I would love to have the conversation and see if we're a good fit together. And yeah, just all the things. Bye, guys. Thank you for listening.